Hello and welcome to another Jimbos Driveway. Thanks for joining us today. I am on my way down to SE Jags in Cheltenham, southeast London, to get an update on the Jaguar XJS. Now, I know that I've been having multiple people asking me, when are we going to have an update on the XJS? It's been a long time coming. There's been speculation, even from my neighbours, as to where is the car? Have I sold the car? Do I still have it anymore? And comments and questions from friends and from you guys as well, asking what's going on with the XJS. And the short answer to that is it's complicated, and that is why I've held off from doing an update on this car thus far. I have gone and seen the car, and I have had some updates on it over the last few months, but I wanted to be very careful about what I put out in terms of content around this situation, because at the end of the day, I've got every respect for Andrew at SE Jags and his work and what he's doing and what he's trying to achieve, and I want to make sure that I've got all of the information, so in order to be able to communicate what is going on, and not paint a picture that is not accurate and is unfair on anyone. So that's a reason as to why it's been a while. That doesn't really get us away from the fact that it has been a long time. The car has been in the garage at SE Jags for the best part now of 6 months, which means I've missed a whole load of content that I was going to shoot over the summer, going to various events with it. None of that's happened. I have still managed to make 1 or 2 events, but I haven't been able to make the content I would have liked, and that's frustrating and upsetting. And not only that, the car itself, it's a second car. It's generally a second car for use like in the summer months, more often than not. And our summer now in the UK is been and gone, or very close to being gone. And as it stands, I don't really understand what the situation is with the car, why it might not be running and ready at this point, and that is what I'm hoping to go out and find today. So just to sort of set some expectations, I may or may not even do some filming in the garage. I've had a number of exchanges with Andrew, and we've decided, or he's asked, and I've agreed to come down and talk about this face to face, because we've been doing things over text message and a few phone calls over the last months, but I'll be honest, I don't really know where we're at with the whole situation. My frustration has been growing to the point that I really just want to move on. So if that means taking the car away in a non-running state, that's what I'm going to have to do. But he has asked me, and I've agreed to go down and sit down and have a chat and see if we can figure something out, which I want to do. But I must stress, I'm not willing to leave the car there on an indefinite basis. What I'm really aiming to find out today is, why has the car taken so long to do, when about 3 or 4 months ago the work it initially went in for was seemingly complete? The delay seems to all have stemmed from an issue that came about once the car was going back together, once the engine was going back together, and some testing was being done. Since then, I've never really got a clear understanding of what's going on, or why it's going on, or why it's taken long. I know there are some contributing factors. Andrew's had to move garages, he's moved to a bigger unit and what have you, but nevertheless, as a customer, I want to know what's going on with my car, and I don't want it left there on an indefinite basis. So today we're going to find out what has been going on, why the issues have occurred, what's been done to date, and where we go from here. So when we get down there, I'm going to have a conversation with Andrew. I'm not going to go straight on camera because I don't want it to make, I don't want to make this a tense situation it doesn't need to be. Ultimately, we all want to come out of this with an amicable solution and a workable solution. And like I said, I absolutely want to make sure that I'm being fair in what I'm putting across, because I'm very conscious that this is going out to an audience. He's a business owner. He's running a small business. He works very hard at what he does, and I really do appreciate that, because I myself run a small business, and so I know what it's like. So I want to make sure that I get this across in the right way. I'm going to go down, see what he's got to say. I will hopefully do some, at minimum, some shots and some footage of the car as it is at this stage, and then I will possibly do an interview with Andrew, or you know, if we don't feel like that's the right thing to do, then I will just do some summary after, either on the way home or down while I'm there. Well, here I am down at SE Jags now. As you can see, the surroundings are slightly different. Andrew's managed to move to a new unit, a much bigger unit, I should say. Very impressive too. That last place he was in was very tight. And it's nice to see that my car's inside, although it's not running. We'll come back to that in just a moment though. What I am really pleased to say is that, having now had a chance to talk to Andrew about everything that's been going on, I feel a lot more comfortable in that things are being done, even though it's taking longer than I'd hoped. But it has given me even more of an appreciation for why these things take longer. And I think that it's something that you just have to learn to understand if you have an older car, that it's not like a plug and play modern car, that some of these things do take time in terms of triaging, diagnosing and finding out and getting things running. So Andrew very kindly said we can go over the car together. He's going to explain some of the work that's been done. If you cast your mind back, the last time I did a major update here was to talk about what we was going to do to the car in terms of overhauling the top end, cleaning up the manifolds, replacing all of the injection system, refurbishing the injectors, replacing old hoses, etc, etc. All things really were kind of preventative maintenance to make sure that the car was going to run really well for the next few years. It had a little bit of a running problem, but that was seen to be down to something on the top end. What has happened as it's gone back together, there's a new issue that seems to have cropped up, and that's become the real thorn in the side to try and understand what that is and how we're going to fix it. It's got the new wheels on it. They look fantastic. I mean, I really can't wait to get the car back and see what it's like on the road. And I'm going to go the other side of the camera now, and we're going to go through it with Andrew and talk in a little bit more detail about what's been done on the car, what some of these issues are that have cropped up, and where we think we might be heading with it in order to get that resolved. So I'm going to ask the questions. Andrew's going to do the technical stuff, and we'll see where we get to then. I hope you... So we've got Andrew with us now. He's going to tell you in a bit more detail about what we've done, because the last time we was here we were poring over the car, deciding exactly what we was going to do in terms of work, and then you can tell us a bit more about the headaches we've run into and kind of where we're at now and where we go with it. So what has been done? Go on, tell it in your own words, because I won't do it justice if I retell it.
So what's been done is remove the injectors and injector rail, sent it off to be rebuilt. Whilst that was away, we removed the manifolds. It's had new cam cover gaskets, new manifold gaskets. The manifolds were all cleaned, throttle bodies all cleaned properly and set up because there was miles out. New bushes in the throttle spindles, new fuel pressure regulator valves. We then cleaned the centre of the V, painted the cam covers, new nuts, bolts and washers, then put it back together, and then it had new plugs, new leads, new cap, new rotor arm, new coil, and then obviously manifolds back on and reassembled it.
And this is, am I right in thinking this is where it sort of started to go a bit?
Yes.
Because you got it, you put it all back together and it started?
Yeah, I put it all back together and it started on the button and ran beautiful. Then it decided it was going to spring a water leak from its water pump.
Yeah.
So I drove the car out of the workshop, it was in the door of the workshop. I pulled it out, turned it around, put it back on the ramp, didn't want it to get too hot. Done the water pump gasket, rectified all that, put all the belts back on, and then the problems have basically began. We did discover that the original injector loom, that's another thing that's been replaced, original injector loom had trapped out on the block.
What's that mean? What, like grounded out? What's that?
Grounded out, yeah. So I think it's just a case that, you know, the car's an 83. So was she 40?
Just under 38 years old?
Yeah. So that wiring's been in the centre of that V for all that time, you know?
Yeah.
So, looking further into the loom, I cut it back up to here, and all the way along it had breaks in it. It was green, corroded, and it had trapped out, which I think had caused the problem. So we replaced that, and then it's just gone on from there, really. We also had, I took a fuel sample. We had sediment, horrendous sediment in the tank, which again we've rectified. We've blown all the fuel lines out. It's had a new, obviously a new fuel filter. It's had a different tank, a different catch tank. Sadly, we sent the injectors off again to be rebuilt again because we had a couple of dodgy ones, which wasn't helping matters. Done all that. Yeah, and that's basically where we're at the moment. And we've got a few wiring issues going on with the other side of the harness, not the engine side, this side of the harness. For some reason, she'll only fire up if I hold the throttle wide open. Timing spot on, all that sort of stuff. I think we've got a ground problem. I don't think it's switching its engine management on properly, which again we've now got to delve in deeper with the horrible wiring, Lucas wiring,
yeah,
and see how we can get on with it, you know.
We did have a conversation about, you know, worst case scenarios, and it's not something that we ever want to discuss or really bring out, but I think that we have to. Mm-hmm. And we've got so broadly speaking, we're going to look at the electrics in more detail, and you've got a specialist who's going to come in and help look at that and diagnose that and troubleshoot that, because the Lucas wiring system is renowned for sending people to the mental institution.
Yes.
If it becomes, there is no reason why it should be a mechanical issue, because the car came in running, right?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And I had it running as well. It ran beautiful, and the only reason I switched it off is because it sprung a water leak, and I obviously didn't want it to get hot.
Yeah.
You know, and then that's when we started discovering all the problems.
So we're gonna remain hopeful that it's not a mechanical issue, because yes, as we've discussed, if it did turn out to be a mechanical issue, what could it potentially be?
Could be that basically one of the adjusters may have perished on the timing chains. And
what sort of work would that involve?
Sadly, engine out, heads off, front of it, timing case off, new adjusters, new chains, and so on. Set it all up, but obviously heads off, new head gaskets, and while we're there, we might as well decoat the heads and blah blah blah, and machine them. And it becomes a rebuild basically, because you know, there's no point putting back. If we did get to that stage, there's no point putting back heads that haven't been machined and things like that. It's a total waste of time.
Yeah. No, I completely understand.
You know, they need to be done, and they need to be done properly if they're going to be done.
Yeah. Now, I'm in a bit of a dilemma with this car because my plan this year was to get it up and running for the summer, use it over the summer, do some content with it, and then hopefully put it away for a little while we look at some other things to do. And now we're in September now. We're going to be heading into sort of the autumn and the winter, which is the time I'm not really going to use it as much. So where we go with this, I don't really know.
No,
I'm kind of in your hands. But what's your plan? When do we think we're going to revisit this again?
I'm going to try and revisit it next week to get on it. I've got one of my good friends coming down to basically help me a little bit, because a fresh pair of eyes always helps, you know. And we're going to brainstorm on it and get on it and get it running, try and get it running, and try and finalise the car and get it back out on the road, you know. And so you can at least enjoy the last bit of what's left of sort of summer.
Let's hope so. If I can get a video out before the weather turns on us, and you know, probably gets not stored up to some degree over the winter or not used nearly as much, then I think that would be a fantastic place to be. That would be a silver lining. We just have to accept that things haven't gone as well as we'd liked. I think on both counts we're a bit disappointed in this.
Well, definitely.
We're still confident that we're going to get it done. Soul destroying. You know, I do.
The other thing that I forgot to mention that I replaced, also new oil cooler.
Oh, of course, we did the oil cooler.
Remember? That's all done now. It's all lovely. New oil cooler from Simply Performance. All good, all fitted, beautiful.
And what I will say is, like, under the bonnet now is looking decidedly fresher and nicer. Like, so to be able to, you know, have it running as good as it looks under there will be like the icing on the cake.
Yeah, and I've done silly things, like on the top of the cam covers I replaced the stickers. Although it's a bit dusty at the moment, I did, you know, silly things, new nuts on here. I painted this top valance, tried to keep it, cleaned all the viscous fan, cleaned all the inner wings, tried to just brighten it up a bit, you know, just to try and bring her back, because it was absolutely thick with grease and oil, and it's no one's fault. It's just over the years where she may have sprung a water leak or an oil leak or whatever, you know, and road dirt and so on and so forth. It's just the territory of a V12, but try to brighten it up, make it nice and fresh and new and clean, and you know, just to give her that sort of lease of life, if you like, you know. So to sum up, another couple of weeks we may be able to revisit this again, you think? Definitely.
We'll see where we're at, we'll see where it takes us.
Also, one of the delays has been where we've been moving as well. That's been a major, because we've still been trying to do the usual everyday stuff as well as move, and we have to paint floors, install ramps, paint walls. It's gone on and on and on and on and on, you know.
Well,
so we can now we're in, we can concentrate on a few more bits.
I feel like my faith is renewed. I do always feel when periods of time go by, I get a bit like disassociated with the car and even knowing whether I want it anymore. But as soon as I come here and see the car and having spoken about it, I feel more confident. I just, you know, as much as you do, I just want to see it back out on the road again.
Of course, nothing, honestly.
No one wants anything more.
It's one of them ones, the fault it's having at the moment. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that can relate to it, who work on cars, not specifically Jaguar, but, you know, cars in general. That if they've had a fault that they can't find, any mechanic will relate to this. It bugs you that much, it actually gives you sleepless nights. Stupid, I know, but
well, it's not. I do. You know, I can relate to that.
Especially when you're passionate about them as well.
And I think that's what really shines through as well, is you do genuinely have a passion for these cars. Which is nice. Which is nice to see.
Nothing more than I want to see this old girl back up, running beautiful, and I want it on song. Like I said, I want it on song, so you'll notice a difference. What I want is that phone call and go, "Glad you've done that. What a difference!" You know, and that's what I aim to get it to.
It will get there.
It will, without by hook or by crook.
By hook or by crook. Right, well, there we go. That's a really insightful update, and I'm really pleased you've been able to cover those bits off. And as we can see, it looks great under there. There's a few finishing off bits to be done still, but we'll be back in another few weeks, hopefully.
Yes.
And with a bit more better news on the horizon. Well, there you go, guys. That's the update on the XJS. Maybe it's not all as bad as I thought, and there is some light at the end of the tunnel, and I want to remain positive and confident that the car is not that far from being back to its former glory, running on all 12 cylinders and making that glorious sound. And hopefully it'll be out on the road soon. We'll just have to wait and see what the next couple of weeks bring. Like I say, I want to remain confident. Let's hope that there is some little gremlins in the electrics or whatever that can be resolved. If it is worse than that, then we're just going to have to cross that bridge when we come to it. But anyway, that's about it for today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell button if you want to get notifications when there's a new video about to drop. You can also keep in touch with what I do on a more sort of like regular basis over on my Instagram channel using the same handle at Jimbos Driveway. And just one last thing before I go. I know mechanics and technicians like Andrew, they must just love it when people can help out online. So, have you guys got any ideas what might be wrong with my Jag? Could you put a comment in below? And maybe Andrew would love to have a read through those and see if he can get some help fixing my car. What do we think? Anyway, that's it for now. Take care.